Directly south of the Albanian capital of Tirana, perched on a sheer, razor-sharp rocky crag on the northern edge of a forested mountain, sits Petrelë Castle. The fortress was constructed in the 6th century AD in a turbulent era following the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, when the Western Balkans experienced massive waves of Slavic migrations. Over the centuries, control of the castle shifted repeatedly, passing between the Byzantines, Bulgarians, French Angevins, and eventually local Albanian feudal clans, most famously the family of Albania's national hero, Skanderbeg. Yet, the stones used to build and maintain this medieval stronghold were drawn from a site much older, larger, and far more mysterious. High above Petrelë Castle, buried beneath centuries of topsoil and a dense canopy of pine and brush, rests the unexcavated Illyrian fortress of Perskop. Back in the 4th century BC, Perskop was a massive, fortified urban center, a stronghold of the Taulantii, a powerful Illyrian tribe. The Illyrians were a major civilization of ancient Europe, and the Taulantii controlled the region of central northern Albania, stretching from Shkodra to Apollonia and Durrës to Lake Ohrid. They held significant power, extracting tribute from Greek colonies and taxing trade routes between the coast and the interior. Through the colony of Durrës, they engaged directly with the wider Hellenic and Latin worlds. Modern Albanian words related to maritime activities, pastoralism, and mining, words with no Greek, Latin, or Slavic roots, were the bedrock of their economy. The most striking feature of Perskop is its monumental defensive wall. Rather than using primitive or unshaped rocks, the inhabitants engineered their stronghold using massive rectangular limestone blocks that rival the scale and sophistication of Mycenaean masonry. Some of these blocks measure up to 3 square meters, laid in perfectly horizontal, overlapping tiers. This was advanced engineering, specifically designed to absorb the shock of heavy battering rams and siege engines. Today, only 60 meters of the original 1-kilometer wall have been cleared of dirt and overgrowth. The terraced slopes inside the ancient perimeter remain consumed by roots and forest, hiding what was once a bustling capital, a city filled with public administrative buildings, assembly spaces, and grand temples dedicated to both Illyrian and Hellenic deities. Tucked inside these fortifications is a monumental vaulted tomb. Dating back to the 4th century BC, this subterranean structure features a beautifully crafted stone archway leading to a vaulted burial chamber. Clearly built for royalty, the tomb reflects a highly specialized indigenous funerary tradition. It serves as physical proof of an organized, prosperous society that possessed its own sophisticated civic identity long before the rise of Rome or the expansion of Hellenic colonies along the coast. According to the Roman historian Livy, when the Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca was asked to name the greatest military commanders in history, he placed Alexander the Great of Macedon first and Pyrrhus of Epirus second. It is a fascinating historical footnote that King Glaukias of the Taulantii actually encountered both men, one as his adoptive son and the other on the battlefield. The Taulantii operated within a complex geopolitical theatre alongside Macedon and Epirus. Their cultures, militaries, and economies were deeply intertwined. Unlike the Hellenic seafaring city-states to the south, these were mining and pastoral societies led by powerful clans and kings. Their relationships were defined by a blend of formal treaties, intermarriage between Greek and Illyrian elites, and extensive trade networks. In fact, King Glaukias's wife, Beroia, was herself a princess of Epirus. To preserve peace with the Illyrians, King Philip of Macedon married a Dardanian princess named Audata. The Dardanians oversaw a centralized Illyrian state in what is now Kosovo and southern Serbia. They controlled vast deposits of silver, gold, iron, and copper, using these mining revenues to finance a professional warrior class that frequently challenged Macedonian hegemony. When Philip II was assassinated in 336 BC, the Illyrians saw an opportunity to reclaim Macedonian-held territory near Lakes Ohrid and Përsqop. King Glaukias of the Taulantii joined forces with the Dardanians, successfully pushing the Macedonians out of the Ohrid region. This campaign culminated in the Siege of Pelium in 335 BC, where the Illyrians trapped Alexander the Great in a narrow valley, nearly defeating him. It was only through a desperate, brilliant surprise counterattack that Alexander managed to preserve his army. These encounters in the mountains provided him with a brutal, hands-on education in warfare. Alexander realized he could not conquer the Persian Empire without first securing his northern borders. Fighting the Illyrians taught him how to maneuver in rugged, mountainous terrain against an enemy that knew exactly how to use the landscape to their advantage. He would go on to employ these same surprise tactics time and time again during his campaigns in the east. In the end, Alexander won the Battle of Pelium, but he chose not to pursue the Illyrians or occupy their territory. He understood a strategic truth. It was far easier to negotiate borders than to defend mountainous terrain. The Illyrians would swear loyalty to Alexander and in return keep their territories. Thousands of Illyrian warriors would fight with Alexander, marching with him all the way to the frontiers of Afghanistan. Following Alexander the Great's sudden death in 323 BC, his generals turned on each other, rapidly carving up his vast empire. In the bloody wars that followed, the Macedonian regent Cassander invaded Epirus, leading to the death of its king, Aeacides. It was during this crisis that the heir to the Epirate throne, a toddler named Pyrrhus, was smuggled out of the country by loyalists seeking a safe haven. They took him to the one safe place his enemies in Macedon or Epirus could not get him, the Taulantian court of King Glaukias, likely right here at Perskop. The Greek biographer Plutarch captures the scene beautifully, describing the toddler crawling toward Glaukias, clinging to the king's knees and pulling himself to his feet. By granting the child asylum, Glaukias was making a dangerous move, effectively inviting war with Macedon. But the gamble paid off. In 306 BC, when Pyrrhus turned 12, Glaukias led an Illyrian army into Epirus, successfully restoring the boy to his throne. Raised among the Taulantii, Pyrrhus received his formative training as an Illyrian noble. The military tactics he learned at the Illyrian court would shape him into the genius who would eventually invade Italy and repeatedly defeat the Roman legions. Without his protection and upbringing by the Taulantii, there would be no Pyrrhic victory in our history books.